The moment my mother saw the visitor log, her entire face drained of color. Not the fake gasp she used at HOA meetings when someone complained about trash cans. This was different. This was real panic. Her manicured finger froze halfway across the hospital tablet screen while the receptionist waited politely. "Mom, we just need to confirm the visitor record before discharge," the woman said. My mother's lips parted. No, that can't be right. Because the same name was there. Over and over. Every single night. Ethan Vale. I didn't see that moment myself. At the time, I was upstairs in the ICU learning how to sit up without my heart feeling like it might explode out of my chest. But a nurse told me later about the way my mother's tan face turned ghost pale when she realized the hospital had receipts. And for the first time in years, I tasted something strange. Proof. My name is Rowan Carter. I'm 29 and I work as a 911 dispatcher outside San Diego, in one of those neighborhoods where every house looks peaceful on purpose. Perfect lawns. Identical mailboxes. Quiet streets that pretend bad things don't happen. But my job taught me the truth. Bad things happen everywhere. Dispatchers don't just answer phones. We hold people together while their worlds fall apart. We're the calm voice when someone's husband stops breathing. We're the countdown when someone's house is on fire. We're the only steady thing people hear when their lives collapse. But the thing that nearly destroyed me, it wasn't the job. It was my family. In our house, my younger brother Logan was the golden child. Surf, blonde hair, perfect smile. Star athlete at everything he touched. My mom used to say the same sentence about him like it was scripture. Logan has so much potential. Like potential paid rent. Like potential fixed broken pipes. Like potential bought groceries. I was the responsible one. The backup battery. The fixer. The reliable daughter who could always handle things. And it started small, tiny favors. "Sweetheart, can you cover the copay this month? Your father's medication got more expensive. Logan needs airfare for a competition. This one's big for his future." Every request had the same flavor, praise wrapped around guilt. "You're strong, Rowan. You'll figure it out." My dad never bothered with praise. His weapon was silence. If I hesitated, he'd pause just long enough for shame to grow heavy in the room. "Do what you want," he'd say. In our house, that meant, do what we want or we'll punish you with distance. So I did. For 5 years I quietly bled money. Home repairs. Medical bills, credit card debt Logan swore he'd repay. Emergency transfers that always came with the same promise. Just until next month. Next month never came. When I finally added it up one night, the number made my stomach twist. Over $90,000. But money wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what it did to me. I worked night shifts dispatching emergencies. 12-hour shifts. Sometimes more. My body started sending warnings, tiny ones at first. My hands shook after work. My vision blurred when I stood too fast. Sometimes I forgot words mid-sentence. I lived off vending machine crackers and gas station coffee. Because eating felt optional. Sleeping felt impossible. And then one night, my body finally quit. The dispatch room was too bright. Too warm. Too loud. It was the end of my 3rd night shift in a row. My headset buzzed and another emergency call flashed across my screen. I answered automatically. 911. "What's your emergency?" A woman was screaming so hard her voice sounded shredded. "My husband. He's not breathing. Please." My training kicked in instantly. "Mom, listen to me. Put the phone on speaker." She sobbed. "Lay him flat on the floor." Her breathing was ragged. "Place the heel of your hand in the center of his chest." I could practically see the scene in my mind. Kitchen tiles. Panic. A man collapsing. "We're going to start compressions together," I told her calmly. 1, 2, 3. She counted with me through tears. I've guided CPR hundreds of times. It's muscle memory. But halfway through the instructions, my brain stuttered. The computer screen blurred. The lights stretched into white knives. My tongue suddenly felt thick. Heavy. Wrong. "Stay with me," I started to say. But the words never finished. The room tilted violently. Then the floor rushed up to meet me. Someone shouted my name. My headset clattered across the desk. Voices echoed somewhere far away. "Rowan. Call an ambulance. Now." Then everything went black. When I woke up, the ceiling above me was hospital white, the kind of white that feels like it wants to erase you. Machines beeped beside my bed. My mouth tasted like metal, and my chest ached like someone had crushed my heart in their fist. I turned my head slowly, expecting. Because that's what families do. You expect them to be there when you wake up in a hospital. My mother, my father, Logan, maybe awkward, maybe worried. But there. Instead, the chair beside my bed was empty, no flowers, no jacket draped over the arm, no overnight bag, just a plastic cup of water and the quiet hum of a hospital that didn't care who I was. A nurse noticed me searching the room. She had kind eyes and dark hair pulled into a messy bun. "You're awake," she said gently. "I'm Dana." My throat burned. "My family." She paused. It was the smallest pause. But dispatchers learn to recognize hesitation, the space before a lie. "They came by," she said carefully. "How long?" Dana held my gaze. "About 20 minutes. 20 minutes. The number landed like a slap. They said they had travel plans." My stomach twisted. We're. Dana didn't even check the chart. Cancun. Of course it was Cancun. Logan had a surfing competition there. My mom had talked about it for weeks like it was the Olympics. "He needs this," she'd said every time I looked tired. "Don't be selfish." That night, Dana checked my monitors again. I stared at the ceiling, too drained to feel angry. "Do you usually get many visitors?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. "You do." I frowned. "I do. There's been someone here," she said. "Every night." My skin prickled. "Who?" Dana glanced toward the hallway. "He came the first night after your family left. Asked for room 314. Stood outside the glass door for hours." My heart thudded weakly. "He never came inside." She shook her head. "He just sat there. Like he didn't want to wake you. Like he wasn't sure he was allowed." I tried to picture it. Someone choosing a hospital hallway over a warm bed. "Does he have a name?" I asked. Dana studied me carefully. "It's in the visitor log." Later that night, I finally saw him. A tall figure stood at the far end of the ICU hallway. He moved quietly, like someone who understood hospitals. He stopped outside my room. Looked through the glass. I couldn't see his face clearly. Just the stillness of him. I lifted my hand weakly. He nodded once. Then he sat down outside my door. And stayed there all night. The next morning I asked Dana again. "What's his name?" She looked at me like she was deciding something important. Then she said it. "Ethan Vale." The name hit me like broken glass. Because my mother used to say that name like a curse. And I hadn't heard it in years. "Why is he here?" I whispered. Dana's voice stayed gentle. "He spoke to billing." My chest tightened. "About what?" She held my gaze. "Your hospital account." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" Dana said quietly. "He paid it. My family flew to Cancun. Left me alone in ICU. And the one man my mother hated more than anyone was the one paying my medical bills." The first time Ethan Vale stepped inside my hospital room, my heart monitor started beeping faster. Not because he did anything dramatic. He didn't rush in. He didn't speak loudly. He didn't even move closer than the doorway. He just stood there like a man who wasn't sure he had the right to exist in my space. And somehow that made everything feel heavier. "Rowan," he said quietly. The way he said my name felt strange. Careful. Like it mattered. I stared at him for several seconds, trying to connect the pieces in my brain. Tall, broad shoulders. Dark hair threaded with early gray at the temples. Maybe mid-40s. His face carried that tired look some people get when life has knocked them around a few times. But his eyes were watching me like someone who'd been waiting a very long time. "Why are you here?" I asked. No hello. No thank you. Just the question burning in my chest. Because the truth was simple, my family had left me here to die. And this stranger hadn't. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "I didn't want you to be alone." The simplicity of the answer punched straight through my ribs. "You paid my hospital bill." It wasn't a question. He nodded once. Silence stretched between us. My brain tried to organize the facts like a dispatcher organizing a crisis call. My family left for Cancun. A man my mother hated showed up every night. He paid my medical bills. None of it made sense. "You knew my mother," I said slowly. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. A long time ago. How long? He hesitated. Long enough. That wasn't an answer. And something about the way he said it made my chest tighten. The monitor beside my bed beeped faster. Dana appeared at the door immediately. Let's keep the excitement down, she said gently, adjusting the wires on my chest. Ethan stepped back instinctively, giving her space. That tiny movement told me something important. This man wasn't here to control anything. He was here carefully, like someone trying not to break something fragile. When Dana left, the silence returned. Why does my mother hate you? I asked. Ethan's mouth twitched slightly. That's a long story. I've got time? I said, glancing around the ICU room. He studied my face for a moment. Then he looked away. Your mother and I disagreed about things. That's the politest way anyone's ever described my mom. I muttered. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. It was the first expression I'd seen on him. You haven't changed? He said quietly. My stomach twisted. What does that mean? His eyes flicked back to me. You always saw through people. My heart skipped. Always? Another pause. Longer this time. Then he said something that made the room tilt again. I used to know you when you were little. The words hung in the air. My brain scrambled. You're one of my mom's old friends. Something like that. The answer was vague enough to make my skin prickle. Before I could press further, my phone buzzed on the tray table. Another message, from my mother. Mom, call me. Now. Another text came seconds later. Mom, the hospital gave me a visitor log. Explain. My stomach dropped. She'd seen his name. Every night. I glanced up at Ethan. He already knew. His shoulders had stiffened. She's coming back, isn't she? He asked quietly. Probably. The word felt heavy. He nodded slowly. Okay, that was it. No panic, no anger, just acceptance. Like a man who'd already expected a storm. I looked at him more closely now. You're not afraid of her. His lips pressed into a thin line. Your mother doesn't scare me. That answer made me uneasy. Because my mother scared a lot of people. She had this polished, charming exterior that could flip into something cold and sharp in seconds. Show presidents, teachers, waiters. My own father sometimes. But Ethan? He looked steady, like he'd already survived whatever version of her existed. You don't have to stay? I said quietly. You've already done more than enough. He didn't move. I'm staying. Why? This time he didn't hesitate. Because someone should. The simplicity of that answer hit harder than anything dramatic ever could. My chest tightened. I stared at the empty chair beside my bed, the one my family never filled. 10 nights. 10 nights he'd been sitting outside a glass door, watching, waiting, saying nothing, and my own parents. 20 minutes. Then Cancun. Rowan, Ethan said softly. I looked up. You don't owe anyone anything right now. A bitter laugh slipped out of me. You clearly haven't met my family. I have. His voice was calm. And you still don't owe them. Before I could respond, voices suddenly echoed down the ICU hallway. Loud, sharp. Familiar. My mother. I'm here to see my daughter. She snapped at someone. Ethan exhaled slowly. Well, he said. Here we go. My pulse started climbing. Footsteps stormed closer. Then my mother burst through the door like she owned the entire hospital. Her hair was perfectly styled, her skin tan and glowing from tropical sun. She smelled faintly of coconut sunscreen. And margaritas. There you are, she said brightly, like she'd just popped in after grocery shopping, not after abandoning me in ICU for 10 days. Her eyes scanned the room quickly, the IV, the monitors, the chair. Then they landed on Ethan. Everything changed instantly. Her smile vanished. Her face went white. What are you doing here? She hissed. The room turned ice cold. Ethan didn't move. I'm visiting my daughter, he said calmly. The words hit like a thunderclap. My mother spun toward me. Don't listen to him. Her voice was sharp now. He's nobody. Nobody. The word echoed inside my chest. I looked at Ethan. Then back at her. Then why? I asked slowly. Did you look like you'd seen a ghost when you saw his name in the visitor log? Her mouth opened. Closed. No answer came. Behind her, another familiar figure stepped into the room. My father. His expression was already irritated. Like the entire situation was inconvenient. He barely glanced at the machines attached to my body. Instead, he looked straight at Ethan. "Who are you?" he demanded. Ethan met his stare evenly. "Someone who stayed." My father's jaw tightened. "This is family business." I laughed softly. The sound surprised even me. "Funny," I said. "You treated me like a bill, not family." My mother snapped back instantly. "She's being dramatic." My father ignored her. His eyes were locked on Ethan now. Hard, dangerous. "Why are you telling my daughter she belongs to you?" Ethan didn't raise his voice. But the next sentence cracked the room open. "Because she does." My mother's voice exploded. "Tacha Lu." The heart monitor beside my bed began screaming faster. Dana rushed into the room. "Everyone needs to calm down." But my mother was shaking now. Furious. Terrified. "Rowan," she snapped. "You're coming home today." I took a slow breath, my hands trembled, but my voice stayed steady. "No." Her eyes widened. "Excuse me. I'm not signing discharge today." "You don't get to decide that?" she snapped. "I already did." The room fell silent. Then I said the sentence that made her face drain of color. "I changed my emergency contact." My mother froze. "You can't." "I already did." My father stepped forward. "Who did you put instead?" I turned my head slowly and looked straight at Ethan. The moment my father asked who my new emergency contact was, the room went completely silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence. The dangerous kind. The kind that happens right before a storm hits. I turned my head slowly and looked at Ethan. "I put him." The words felt unreal coming out of my mouth, like I'd just broken some invisible family rule that had controlled my life for years. My mother blinked. Once. Twice. Then she laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was sharp. Disbelieving. "Oh, Rowan?" she said, shaking her head like I'd just told a ridiculous joke. "You can't be serious." "I am." Her smile tightened. "You don't even know him." That stung. Because the truth was, she was right. I didn't know him. Not really. But I did know one thing: he stayed. And my family didn't. "You left me here," I said quietly. My mother waved her hand dismissively. "You were stable." That word again. Stable. Like I was a package sitting safely in a warehouse. "You flew to Cancun." "It was Logan's competition," she snapped. "Of course it was." My father stepped forward now, clearly annoyed that the conversation had turned emotional. "This is unnecessary drama," he said flatly. "You're fine now. Sign the discharge papers and we'll go home." Home. The word twisted in my chest. Because the truth was, that house had never really felt like home. Not in years. "I'm not going," I said. My mother's eyes narrowed immediately. "What did you say?" "I'm not going home with you." Her entire posture stiffened. That polished, perfect suburban mom mask began cracking. "Rowan," she said slowly, dangerously, "you're being irrational." I almost laughed. "I collapsed at work," I reminded her. "My heart literally stopped working right. And the first thing you did was get on a plane." "You were fine," she insisted again. Dana cleared her throat gently from the doorway. "She wasn't fine." All three of us turned toward the nurse. Dana's voice remained calm but firm. "Extreme exhaustion, cardiac arrhythmia, severe dehydration." She looked directly at my mother. "She was lucky." Lucky. My mother's jaw tightened. "Well, she's alive, isn't she?" The words hung in the air like poison. I stared at her. Really stared. And for the first time in my life, something inside me shifted. Finally. "You know," I said quietly, "I spent 5 years helping you." My father frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" I picked up my phone from the tray beside the bed. Opened my banking app. Then turned the screen toward them. Transfer history filled the display. My mother leaned scanned the numbers: $2,505,000 words, $208,000 month after month. Year after year. Her face slowly lost color. "What is this?" my father demanded. "You know what it is." His expression darkened. "That's family support." "No," I said. "That's $90,000. The number landed like a brick. Even Ethan looked surprised. My mother straightened instantly. "That money was for your father's health. And Logan's competitions. And the house repairs. And me," I interrupted. She stopped talking. What part of that money was for me? Silence. Heavy, ugly. My father finally spoke. You're part of this family. We all sacrificed. I stared at him. You never sacrificed. His face hardened. You ungrateful. No, I said calmly. I was obedient. That word hit harder. My mother's voice rose. You're acting like we stole from you. I tilted my head. Didn't you? Her eyes flashed. That money helped your brother succeed. There it was. Logan. Always Logan. What about me? I asked quietly. You're doing fine. That sentence. That same sentence she'd been repeating my entire life. You're strong, Rowan. You'll figure it out. Suddenly Ethan spoke from near the window. She collapsed because she's been carrying all of you. Everyone turned toward him. My father looked furious now. You stay out of this. Ethan didn't move. She's not your ATM. My father stepped toward him. You don't know anything about our family. Ethan's expression didn't change. I know enough. My mother snapped. You have no right to be here. His reply was calm. I have every right. My mother's eyes turned icy. No, you don't. Then she looked at me again. Rowan, he's manipulating you. I frowned. How? She hesitated. Then said the one sentence that changed everything. He wants something from you. I looked at Ethan. Do you? He shook his head slowly. No. The honesty in his voice was almost painful. My mother scoffed. Please, men don't just pay hospital bills for strangers. That was a fair point. So I asked the question burning in my chest. Why did you? Ethan looked at me. Really looked. Like he was weighing something heavy. Then he said quietly, because I promised I would. My mother snapped. You promised what? He didn't answer her. His eyes never left mine. I made a promise a long time ago, he said. My heart pounded harder. What promise? Silence stretched. Then Ethan said something that made the entire room freeze. I promised I'd take care of you. My father laughed harshly. That's ridiculous. My mother looked furious. Stop filling her head with nonsense. But my chest felt tight, because something about that sentence felt familiar, like a memory just out of reach. You made that promise to who? I asked quietly. Ethan didn't answer. My mother stepped forward suddenly. Enough of this. Her voice turned sharp again. You're coming home, Rowan. Today? No. She blinked again. You don't get to decide that. I already did. I opened my phone again. Another screen. Another account. I canceled the transfers. My mother's eyes widened. What? The automatic payments. The shared account. The credit cards. All closed. My father looked stunned. You can't do that. I already did. My mother's voice shook now. What about the contractor working on the house? What about Logan's travel fees? What about? I shrugged weakly. Call Cancun. Her face twisted with rage. You're abandoning your family. I looked at her for a long moment. Then said quietly, you abandoned me first. The room went silent again. Even the heart monitor seemed quieter. Finally my father spoke. Cold. If you cut us off like this. He leaned closer to the bed. You'll regret it. For years that sentence terrified me. But now, it just felt tired. I already regret the last 5 years, I said. My mother stared at Ethan again. Her hatred was almost physical. You think you've won something, she said. You think you can rewrite history. Ethan's voice stayed steady. I'm not rewriting anything. Then he said something that made my skin go cold. I'm correcting what you hid. My mother froze. For the first time since she walked into the room. She looked scared. The moment Ethan said, I'm correcting what you hid. My mother stopped breathing. Not literally. But close enough. For a split second, the confident, perfectly polished woman who ran PTA meetings and neighborhood block parties looked like someone had pulled the ground out from under her. You're lying. She snapped, but the words came out too fast. Too sharp. Like she was trying to stop something before it reached me. My father stepped forward immediately. That's enough, he said coldly to Ethan. You've said more than you should. Ethan didn't move. I haven't said anything yet. The room suddenly felt too small. My heart monitor started beeping faster again. Dana glanced at it nervously from the doorway. Everyone needs to calm down, she warned. But nobody was listening, because now my attention was locked on Ethan. What did she hide? I asked. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted it to. My mother spun toward me instantly. Nothing, she said quickly. Absolutely nothing. But I'd spent my entire adult life listening to panicked callers trying to hide the truth. And I knew exactly what fear sounded like. She was terrified. Rowan, she continued, forcing a tight smile, you're tired. You're on medication. This man is confusing you. My father nodded. We'll talk about this at home. Home again. That word again. Like if they just dragged me back into that house, everything would return to normal. But something inside me had already shifted too far. No, I said quietly. Both of them froze. No what? My father asked. No more secrets. My mother's eyes flashed. You're being dramatic. Maybe, I admitted, but if there's nothing to hide, then let him talk. Silence. Heavy. Tense. My mother turned toward Ethan slowly. You say one word, she hissed. And I swear to Godly. What? Ethan asked calmly. You'll do what? For the first time since he walked into the room, there was steel in his voice. My mother looked like she wanted to slap him. My father stepped between them. You've said enough, he told Ethan. Then he turned to me. Rowan, this man is manipulating you. That word again. Manipulating. I looked at Ethan. He wasn't looking at my parents anymore. He was looking at me. Carefully. Like someone approaching a wounded animal. I never wanted you to find out this way, he said quietly. My chest tightened. Find out what? My mother's voice exploded. Estoop. Everyone jumped. Dana immediately stepped forward. Mom, you need to lower your voice. But my mother ignored her. She pointed a shaking finger at Ethan. You stay away from her. He didn't move. Too late for that. My father's patience finally snapped. Rowan, he said sharply, this conversation ends now. No, I repeated. That word felt stronger this time. Not until someone tells me what's going on. My mother's eyes filled with pure fury. You're choosing him over your own family. I looked at her for a long moment. Then said something that shocked even me. You left me here to die. Her mouth dropped open. That's ridiculous. You stayed 20 minutes, I said. Then you flew to Mexico. You were stable? I laughed bitterly. Yeah. Stable enough to be abandoned. She looked like she might scream again. Instead she turned on Ethan. This is your fault. He didn't react. You always wanted this. He raised an eyebrow. Wanted what? To destroy my family. The accusation hung in the air. Ethan's voice stayed calm. You destroyed your own family a long time ago. My father stepped forward aggressively. That's enough. The tension in the room spiked. For a second I thought they might actually start fighting. Dana raised her voice again. If you don't lower the hostility, security will be called. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Finally I whispered the question that had been echoing in my mind since he said it. Why did you promise to take care of me? Ethan's gaze softened slightly. My mother turned toward me instantly. Because he's lying. But I didn't look at her. I kept looking at him. Who did you make that promise to? I asked. The silence stretched so long the machines were the only sounds in the room. Then Ethan said quietly, your grandmother. My brain froze. My what? Your mom's mother? He clarified. I know who my grandmother is, I said slowly, but she died when I was 12. Yes. And you promised her something about me. He nodded. My mother looked like she might collapse. That's not the whole story. She snapped. Ethan ignored her. Your grandmother loved you more than anything, he said gently. A lump formed in my throat. I remembered her. Soft sweaters. Peppermint candy. The only adult who ever seemed truly happy to see me. She worried about you, Ethan continued. Why? My mother suddenly slammed her hand against the bed rail. Because she was paranoid. Her voice shook with anger. She always thought something was wrong with our family. Ethan looked at her. Was she wrong? The question landed like a bomb. My father glared. You're twisting things. Ethan's voice stayed calm. She saw how you treated Rowan. That's not true. My mother shouted. She favored Logan, Ethan said simply. My mother's face twisted. Because he needed support. And Rowan didn't? Ethan asked. Silence again. My chest felt tight. Because every word he said felt uncomfortably close to the truth. So my grandmother asked you to watch over me? I asked slowly. Yes. But why you? My mother laughed bitterly. Because he was obsessed with our family. Ethan shook his head. That's not true. Then what is the truth? I demanded. He looked like he was standing at the edge of something dangerous, something he'd been avoiding for years. I was close to your grandmother, he said carefully. How close? He hesitated. My mother whispered sharply, don't you dare. Ethan exhaled slowly. Then he said something that made the room spin. I was married to your aunt. My brain scrambled. My aunt. Your mother's sister. My stomach flipped. I barely remembered her. She died when I was young. Car accident. That's all I'd ever been told. So you're what? Ethan gave a sad half smile. Technically? Your uncle. My mother exploded. Exuencio! The word echoed through the room. Dana looked completely stunned now. My father clenched his fists. This conversation is over. But my head was spinning. Pieces of half-forgotten memories flickered through my mind. A tall man at family barbecues. A deep voice laughing in the backyard. Someone lifting me onto his shoulders when I was little. You? I whispered. Ethan nodded slightly. You used to call me Uncle Ethan. A strange ache spread through my chest. Because suddenly something inside me clicked. I did remember him. Faintly, like an old photograph in the back of a drawer. Then why did you disappear? I asked. My mother answered before he could, because he betrayed this family. Her voice was full of venom. Ethan finally looked at her again. No, he said quietly. I told the truth. My pulse pounded in my ears. What truth? Neither of them answered immediately. But the look they shared. It was the look of two people who knew a secret too dangerous to speak out loud. And suddenly I realized something terrifying. Whatever that truth was. It was about me. The moment I realized the secret might be about me, my stomach dropped so hard it felt like the hospital bed tilted beneath me. No, my mother said sharply, reading the expression on my face. Don't start imagining things. But she said it too fast. Too defensive. Which meant I was right. There's something you're not telling me. I said quietly. My father stepped forward again, his patience gone. This conversation ends now. No, I repeated. My voice shook this time, but I didn't stop. You've both lied to me my whole life. That's ridiculous. My mother snapped. Is it? I asked. Then I looked back at Ethan. You said you told the truth. I said slowly. What truth? Ethan didn't answer right away. His gaze moved between me and my parents, like a man deciding whether to open a door that could never be closed again. You deserve to know, he said finally. My mother's voice exploded. Shechio-send. Dana stepped forward again. Mom. But my mother ignored her completely. You promised. She shouted at Ethan. I promised your mother I would protect Rowan. He replied calmly. That's exactly what I'm doing. My father slammed his hand against the bed rail. You're destroying this family. Ethan's eyes hardened slightly. Your family was broken long before this moment. The room fell silent again. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. What truth? I whispered. Ethan looked at me, really looked, and I saw something in his expression I hadn't noticed before. Regret. Your aunt didn't die in a random accident? He said. My breath caught. What? My mother's voice turned icy. That's enough. Ethan continued anyway. She was trying to leave. The words made no sense. Leave who? I asked. My parents. Ethan didn't say it out loud, but the implication was obvious. My father scoffed. This is ridiculous. But Ethan's gaze never left mine. She discovered something about your parents, he said. And she couldn't stay silent about it. My chest tightened. What did she discover? My mother's hands were shaking now. Rowan, she said quickly, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. This is old family drama. None of it matters now. Then why are you so scared? I asked. Her smile vanished instantly. I'm not scared. Ethan spoke quietly. She found out how much money your parents were taking from your grandmother. The room froze. My mother laughed harshly. Oh, please. My father crossed his arms. Your grandmother helped us. That's what families do. Ethan shook his head. No. She was being drained. My stomach twisted, because suddenly that sounded very familiar. Just like me. My aunt found proof, I asked slowly. Yes. And she confronted them. My mother's eyes flashed. She misunderstood. Ethan ignored her again. She was going to tell the rest of the family. And then? I asked. My voice was barely above a whisper now. Ethan hesitated. 2 weeks later, she died. The words landed like a punch. Car accident. That's what I'd been told my entire life. Just bad luck. Just tragedy. But the way Ethan said it made my skin crawl. You think it wasn't an accident? I said slowly. My father barked a laugh. That's insane. But my mother wasn't laughing. She was staring at Ethan with pure hatred. You've been spreading that lie for 20 years, she said. Ethan's voice remained calm. I never said you caused the accident. But you implied it? My father snapped. Because the timing was suspicious. My chest felt tight. So that's why you were banned from the family? I asked. My mother scoffed. He was poisoning everyone against us. Ethan shook his head. I was asking questions. And that was enough. My father said coldly. Families don't tolerate betrayal. The irony almost made me laugh. Families also don't tolerate being robbed, Ethan replied. My mother stepped closer to him. Her voice dropped into a venomous whisper. You ruined everything. No, Ethan said quietly. You did. The tension in the room felt explosive now, like one wrong word might detonate something. I tried to process everything. My aunt, the money, the accusations. You said my grandmother asked you to watch over me. I said. Yes. Why me? Ethan's expression softened again. Because she knew what would happen. What do you mean? She knew they'd lean on you next? My stomach twisted again. Because that's exactly what happened. The endless requests, the guilt, the pressure. You were her favorite. Ethan continued gently. She worried they'd use that kindness against you. My throat tightened. Because my grandmother had always been the only person who made me feel seen. She asked me to look out for you, he said. Even if the rest of the family cut me off. My mother shook her head furiously. This is unbelievable. My father looked furious now. You think you're some kind of hero? Ethan shrugged slightly. Nope. Just someone who kept a promise. My mother suddenly laughed. But it sounded almost hysterical. Rowan, she said, turning toward me. You're really going to believe this man over your own parents? I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, everything he'd said matched the patterns I'd lived through. The money. The manipulation. The guilt. You took $90,000 from me, I said quietly. That was family support. My father insisted. And grandma, I asked, was that family support too? My mother's eyes flashed. She wanted to help. Ethan spoke softly. She died nearly broke. That sentence dropped into the room like a stone. My heart skipped. What? My mother's voice turned sharp. That's not true. Ethan looked directly at me. Most of her savings were gone. My father looked furious now. You have no proof of that. Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket. Then he pulled out a thin manila envelope. My mother's face went completely pale. What is that? I asked. Ethan placed it gently on the bedside table. Something your grandmother asked me to keep safe. My pulse jumped. For you. My mother lunged forward. Don't open that! But it was too late, because suddenly I realized something. Something terrifying. Something that explained everything. All the money. All the secrets. All the fear in my mother's eyes. Whatever was inside that envelope. It was the one thing my parents never wanted me to see. And if Ethan had kept it hidden for 20 years, then the truth inside it was probably powerful enough to destroy my entire family. The moment I realized the secret might be about me, my stomach dropped so hard it felt like the hospital bed tilted beneath me. No. My mother said sharply, reading the expression on my face. Don't start imagining things. But she said it too fast. Too defensive. Which meant I was right. There's something you're not telling me, I said quietly. My father stepped forward again, his patience gone. This conversation ends now. No, I repeated. My voice shook this time, but I didn't stop. You've both lied to me my whole life. That's ridiculous, my mother snapped. Is it? I asked. Then I looked back at Ethan. You said you told the truth, I said slowly. What truth? Ethan didn't answer right away. His gaze moved between me and my parents, like a man deciding whether to open a door that could never be closed again. You deserve to know, he said finally. My mother's voice exploded. Oh, she doesn't. Dana stepped forward again. Mom. But my mother ignored her completely. You promised. She shouted at Ethan. I promised your mother I would protect Rowan, he replied calmly. That's exactly what I'm doing. My father slammed his hand against the bed rail. You're destroying this family. Ethan's eyes hardened slightly. Your family was broken long before this moment. The room fell silent again. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. What truth? I whispered. Ethan looked at me. Really looked. And I saw something in his expression I hadn't noticed before. Regret. Your aunt didn't die in a random accident, he said. My breath caught. What? My mother's voice turned icy. That's enough. Ethan continued anyway. She was trying to leave. The words made no sense. Leave who? I asked. My parents. Ethan didn't say it out loud, but the implication was obvious. My father scoffed. This is ridiculous. But Ethan's gaze never left mine. She discovered something about your parents, he said, and she couldn't stay silent about it. My chest tightened. What did she discover? My mother's hands were shaking now. Rowan, she said quickly, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. This is old family drama. None of it matters now. Then why are you so scared? I asked. Her smile vanished instantly. I'm not scared. Ethan spoke quietly. She found out how much money your parents were taking from your grandmother. The room froze. My mother laughed harshly. Oh please. My father crossed his arms. Your grandmother helped us. That's what families do. Ethan shook his head. No. She was being drained. My stomach twisted. Because suddenly that sounded very familiar. Just like me. My aunt found proof. I asked slowly. Yes. And she confronted them. My mother's eyes flashed. She misunderstood. Ethan ignored her again. She was going to tell the rest of the family. And then? I asked. My voice was barely above a whisper now. Ethan hesitated. 2 weeks later, she died. The words landed like a punch. Car accident. That's what I'd been told my entire life. Just bad luck. Just tragedy. But the way Ethan said it made my skin crawl. You think it wasn't an accident? I said slowly. My father barked a laugh. That's insane. But my mother wasn't laughing. She was staring at Ethan with pure hatred. You've been spreading that lie for 20 years, she said. Ethan's voice remained calm. I never said you caused the accident. But you implied it. My father snapped. Because the timing was suspicious. My chest felt tight. So that's why you were banned from the family? I asked. My mother scoffed. He was poisoning everyone against us. Ethan shook his head. I was asking questions. And that was enough. My father said coldly, families don't tolerate betrayal. The irony almost made me laugh. Families also don't tolerate being robbed. Ethan replied. My mother stepped closer to him. Her voice dropped into a venomous whisper. You ruined everything. No. Ethan said quietly. You did. The tension in the room felt explosive now, like one wrong word might detonate something. I tried to process everything. My aunt, the money, the accusations. You said my grandmother asked you to watch over me? I said. Yes. Why me? Ethan's expression softened again. Because she knew what would happen. What do you mean? She knew they'd lean on you next. My stomach twisted again. Because that's exactly what happened. The endless requests. The guilt. The pressure. You were her favorite. Ethan continued gently. She worried they'd use that kindness against you. My throat tightened. Because my grandmother had always been the only person who made me feel seen. She asked me to look out for you, he said. Even if the rest of the family cut me off. My mother shook her head furiously. This is unbelievable. My father looked furious now. You think you're some kind of hero? Ethan shrugged slightly. No. Just someone who kept a promise. My mother suddenly laughed, but it sounded almost hysterical. Rowan, she said, turning toward me. You're really going to believe this man over your own parents? I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, everything he'd said matched the patterns I'd lived through. The money, the manipulation, the guilt. You took $90,000 from me, I said quietly. That was family support, my father insisted. And Grandma? I asked. Was that family support too? My mother's eyes flashed. She wanted to help. Ethan spoke softly. She died nearly broke. That sentence dropped into the room like a stone. My heart skipped. What? My mother's voice turned sharp. That's not true. Ethan looked directly at me. Most of her savings were gone. My father looked furious now. You have no proof of that. Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket. Then he pulled out a thin manila envelope. My mother's face went completely pale. What is that? I asked. Ethan placed it gently on the bedside table. Something your grandmother asked me to keep safe. My pulse jumped. For you. My mother lunged forward. Don't open that. But it was too late, because suddenly I realized something. Something terrifying. Something that explained everything. All the money. All the secrets. All the fear in my mother's eyes. Whatever was inside that envelope. It was the one thing my parents never wanted me to see, and if Ethan had kept it hidden for 20 years, then the truth inside it was probably powerful enough to destroy my entire family. The moment I said, I'm done, my father's face went completely still. Not calm, not controlled, still, the kind of stillness that comes right before someone explodes. You don't mean that, he said quietly. I met his eyes. I do. My mother shook her head like she was trying to wake herself from a nightmare. You're emotional? She said quickly. You just got out of the ICU, you're confused. I almost laughed. For years they'd used that exact tactic. If I disagreed with them, I must be tired. If I questioned them, I must be emotional. If I said no, something must be wrong with me. But this time the fog in my head had finally cleared. I'm perfectly clear, I said. My father's jaw clenched. You're making a mistake. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed loudly on the bedside table. Everyone's eyes shifted to it. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in days. Logan. Of course. My mother grabbed the phone before I could reach it. Hi, sweetheart. She answered immediately, her voice transformed, soft, warm, concerned. Like she'd just switched masks. Yes, we're here with Rowan? Pause. Then she glanced at me with a sharp expression. She's being very dramatic. I held out my hand. Give me the phone. She hesitated, then reluctantly handed it over. Logan. I said. Ro. His voice sounded confused. Mom says you're refusing to come home. I closed my eyes briefly. I'm not coming back. There was a pause on the other end. What do you mean? I glanced around the room. My parents were staring at me like hawks. Did they tell you about the inheritance? I asked. Silence. Then Logan said something that made my stomach twist. What inheritance? My head snapped up. You didn't know? No, he said slowly. What are you talking about? I looked at my parents. Their expressions were tight, controlled. Grandma left me money, I said. Another pause. How much? I swallowed. Almost $2 million. The silence on the phone stretched longer this time. Then Logan laughed. But it didn't sound happy. You're kidding. I wish I was. His voice suddenly sharpened. Wait, are you saying Mom and Dad knew about this? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because Logan suddenly said, oh my God. The realization had hit him. They never told you, he whispered. No. Another long pause. Then something surprising happened. Logan didn't get angry at me. He got angry at them. You've got to be kidding me, he snapped, clearly talking to our parents even though he was on speaker. My mother quickly leaned closer to the phone. Logan, sweetheart, this is complicated. No, it's not, he interrupted. His voice had turned cold. You've been borrowing money from Rowan for years. My father crossed his arms. That's family support. You knew she had almost $2 million waiting for her, and you still took her savings. The room fell silent again. My mother tried again. That money was meant for the family. Logan laughed bitterly. Yeah. Then why wasn't I told about it either? My eyebrows lifted. You didn't know at all? No, Logan said. Then he added quietly. I thought Rowan was just better with money than the rest of us. The words hit me strangely. Because for the first time, I realized something. Logan might have been the golden child. But he hadn't known everything either. You're seriously cutting them off? He asked me. Yes, completely. Yes. Another pause. Then Logan sighed. Honestly, I don't blame you. My mother's face twisted in shock. But he kept talking. Ro, you collapsed at work. Mom said you were fine. I wasn't. I figured. His voice softened. You always push yourself too hard. For a second, my throat tightened. Because that was the closest thing to concern I'd heard from him in years. You should rest, he added quietly. I will. Then he said something that shocked everyone in the room. Don't let them guilt you into anything. My mother's jaw dropped. Logan Carter? But he ignored her. I've gotta go, he said. They're boarding our flight. Back from Cancun. Of course. Take care of yourself, Rao. You too. Then the call ended. The room was silent again. My parents looked stunned. Like their perfect family script had just been ripped apart. My father finally spoke. You manipulated him too. I blinked. Seriously. You turned your brother against us. I shook my head slowly. No. You did that yourselves. My mother looked desperate now. Rowan, listen to me. Her voice softened again. You know we love you. The sentence hit me harder than I expected. Because part of me still wanted to believe it, but then I remembered the empty ICU chair. The Cancun photos. The 20-minute visit. If that's love, I said quietly, I don't want it. Her eyes filled with angry tears. You're tearing this family apart. I looked down at my grandmother's letter again. Then back at her. No, I said softly. I'm just refusing to hold it together anymore. My father shook his head slowly. You think this man is your savior? I glanced at Ethan. He hadn't said a word during the entire phone call. Just stood quietly by the window. No, I said. I think he's just the only person who kept a promise. My mother laughed bitterly. You think he cares about you? Ethan finally spoke again. Wes, just one word. Simple. Honest. My mother looked at him like she wanted to destroy him. You've been waiting 20 years for this moment. Ethan shook his head. I was waiting 20 years for Rowan to have a choice. The room fell silent again, because suddenly everyone understood something. For the first time in my life, I actually had one. And judging by the look on my parents' faces, they knew they had just lost control of me forever. The moment my father realized he had lost control of me, something in his face cracked. Not sadness, not regret. Just rage. Cold, quiet rage. For years I had seen flashes of it whenever things didn't go his way. When a deal failed. When a neighbor complained. When Logan missed a touchdown during his high school football season. But I had never been the target of it. Until now. You're making the biggest mistake of your life, he said slowly. His voice wasn't loud. But it was dangerous. My mother sat stiffly in the hospital chair, her arms folded like armor across her chest. The panic from earlier had hardened into something colder. Disappointment. Not because they hurt me. But because they were losing their leverage. I suddenly realized something painful. They weren't grieving the relationship. They were grieving the loss of control. I don't think I am, I said quietly. My father scoffed. You think money makes you independent? No, I replied. It just removes the excuse you've always used to control me. The silence in the room was thick. Even the heart monitor felt louder. Beep. Beep. My mother leaned forward slowly. You're tired. You're hurt, and that man, she gestured sharply toward Ethan, has been filling your head with nonsense. Ethan didn't react. Didn't argue. Didn't interrupt. He just stood quietly by the window, like he had the entire time. which made my mother even angrier. "You've been manipulating her for years," she snapped at him. His response was calm. "No." "Then why wait 20 years to tell her about the money?" "Because her grandmother asked me to." My father's laugh was bitter. "Oh please. You expect us to believe that?" Ethan looked directly at him. "I don't care what you believe." That shut him up. And honestly, it shocked me too, because Ethan had never been confrontational growing up. He was always calm, quiet, reserved. But now I could see something else in his eyes. Resolve. The kind of resolve someone has when they've spent years preparing for a moment like this. My mother stood up suddenly. "Fine." She grabbed her purse. "If this is the path you're choosing, Rowan, then don't expect us to clean up the mess later." I tilted my head slightly. "What mess?" Her voice sharpened. "Life isn't some fairy tale where you run away from your family and everything works out." I took a slow breath. "You ran away to Cancun while I was in the ICU." Her face flushed. "That was a planned trip. I almost died." Doctors exaggerate. Even Dana, standing near the door, looked stunned by that one. I stared at my mother. Really stared. And for the first time in my life, I saw her clearly. Not as my mother. Not as someone whose approval I desperately needed. Just as a person. A deeply flawed person. A person who had chosen pride over compassion. Over and over again. "You're right about one thing," I said softly. She crossed her arms. "What?" "This isn't a fairy tale." My father shook his head impatiently. "Enough of this." He walked toward the door. "Let's go." My mother hesitated. For a brief moment, I thought she might say something different. Something real, something honest. But instead she just looked at me and said, "You'll regret this." Then she walked out. Just like that. No hug, no apology, no goodbye. The door clicked shut behind them. And suddenly the room felt quiet. Not empty. Just peaceful. Dana exhaled slowly. "Well," she said under her breath, "that was something." I let out a shaky laugh. "Yeah." She nodded toward the hallway. "I'll make sure they leave the building." "Thanks." Once she left, the room fell silent again. Only Ethan and I remained. For a few seconds neither of us spoke. Then I looked down at the letter in my hands again. My grandmother's handwriting felt like a warm hug from another lifetime. "You knew this would happen," I said quietly. Ethan shook his head. "I hoped it wouldn't." "But you prepared for it."
Yes.
I looked up at him. "Why?" The question hung in the air between us. He hesitated for the first time all night. Then he pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat down. "When your grandmother asked me to hold that inheritance," he said slowly, "she told me something." "What?" He looked at the letter. "She said you were the strongest person in your family." I snorted softly. "That's not saying much." He smiled faintly. "No." Then he looked me directly in the eyes. "But she also said you didn't know it yet." My throat tightened. "Do you believe that?" "I do." Silence filled the room again, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt steady, grounded. For the first time in days, my chest didn't feel tight. I looked around the hospital room, the pale walls, the humming machines, the empty chair where my parents had sat just minutes earlier. "You know something weird," I said. "What?" "I don't feel abandoned." He raised an eyebrow. "No." I shook my head. "I feel free." The word surprised even me. Free. Free from expectations. Free from guilt. Free from a lifetime of trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. Ethan leaned back in his chair. "What are you going to do now?" I thought about that for a moment. The inheritance. The job I'd nearly worked myself to death for. The family that had just walked out, and the strange, unexpected peace sitting in my chest. Then I smiled. For the first time in my life. "Yeah. I'm going to choose my own life." He nodded. "Good." Outside the window, the city lights of Chicago flickered across the dark lake like scattered stars. A brand new future. Waiting. I looked down at my grandmother's letter one last time. Her final line echoed softly in my mind. "Love should never feel like a debt." I folded the letter carefully and placed it back into the envelope. Then I leaned back against the hospital pillow and whispered something I had never truly believed before, but finally did. I deserved better. and for the first time in my life, I was finally going to give it to myself.